What is going on, guys? Today we are looking at the best defenders in FIFA 23. We're going to kick things off straight away with Zinchenko, and as you can see we have got S1, S, AS and A, something we brought in with the midfielders just to differentiate between the S category and the top of the top. I feel like there is a lot of top end players now, and most definitely in defence. There is a lot of combinations you can make. Not only is it now just a Maldini and a Team of the Year via Van Dijk, there is a lot of good centre-backs that you could just put in there. You've got a Lucio, you've got a new footage Joe Gomez, Ramos is still up there. There is a ton of top end, so just putting him in S, I feel like is a little bit of a disservice. So we're going to go with that new list. A is almost the fodder, really. We have got a lot of them, unfortunately, and I'll try and be as picky with where I put players, because I do think there is a set amount of players. Most definitely when, for instance, you look at the first one with Zinchenko, I don't think I've seen him in a team. So realistically for me, he is going into the fodder category, and we're going to be very harsh. Let me know down below if you disagree with any. It is all opinion based, but in terms of left backs, there's probably 3, maybe 4 names that I see on an absolute cycle, and I guarantee it's not Zinchenko. In terms of Zanetti as the next one, the right back, obviously Team of the Year icon, which is phenomenal in himself, a great upgrade for the Zanetti card, but I would say by now, more than likely going into that fodder as well. I would say as a CDM, he definitely had a bit more of a bigger role, being a little bit taller than kind of your natural right backs. I think he's, I want to say he's under 6 foot, but I could be totally wrong there. But I always found him better at that CDM role. Same as Lahm. I know Lahm is a little bit smaller, definitely a fact, but I feel like the CDM works really well for him because they're not known for 99 pace absolutely everywhere. We then have Zaha as a shapeshifter. Again, to be honest, one of the shapeshifters I thought that was quite poor in my opinion. I felt like a lot of the shapeshifters throughout all positions were absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, a lot of them were goalkeepers, but I mean, in terms of shapeshifters, I feel like they did really well. You've got your Brunos, you've got your De Jongs, your Virgils in CDMs, and I do think in terms of fullbacks and centre-backs, they did relatively well to almost sway the voting. Personally, for me, I think Zaha was probably above the average fodder, but most definitely not in that big category, if I'm being honest. We then have Wagner. Again, very easy fodder choice. I feel like there will be quite a lot of fodder here, as I think there's about 112 cards to go through. Vidic, on the other hand, incredible centre-back. Definitely gone down compared to when he was in Team of the Year once it was first came out. Now, obviously, there is a lot of top-end centre-backs, so he is going to be the first one that does go into that S. And then, how could I forget, Level Up Varane. Absolutely fantastic. I didn't think we'd get another one, but by God, they absolutely smashed it with that card. 97 rated is crazy. Followed up by Van Dijk, another cracking centre-back. Never going to disagree with him. He, again, is always elite. From the gold card that pretty much made it to Team of the Season in my team, all the way to the Team of the Year. Unfortunately, missing out on a Team of the Season. It is what it is, but I can imagine maybe a cheeky footage does come around. A 99 Virgil, as the last card was obviously in Team of the Year, at least the 96 version, it is definitely on the card. So definitely stick out for that. And just remember I said that. Trippier. Oh, okay, maybe not. Virgil again. Trippier, very easy one to be honest. More fodder than anything. Definitely losing out to Reece James in my opinion in terms of Prem right backs. So it kind of is what it is with him. Traore, another great one that played in the CDM. Very much like Fofana. I believe he was a change to a CDM for the outer position, and you could put him centre-back, and Fofana outer position was centre-back, and you could put him CDM. But the physicality, the pace linked with him was immense. So I do think, in terms of him, he was... Oh, it's at a fullback, though. I do like him as CDM. In fact, you know what? We're going to go AS as a very low rating. I feel like he's close to fodder, but I think you've got some play potential with him. Tomori, another phenomenal centre-back. Again, another one that would really benefit from a footies. I do think the 92 was absolutely fantastic when he came out. Whether I'd put him in the top end category, I definitely would choose Van Dijk and Virgil over him. Very much like Vidic when he came out. Unbelievable. Serie A team, he is top of the list. If you're not going past and present, that is. Akambi, again, another nice left back. I felt like he was well, I definitely think he's better than Zaha in terms of a fullback. But again, with left backs, there is a lot of options, and we will get to them. There's probably like 2 or 3 that I would say is top, and one of them has had a recent card just. We then have Todobe, another good centre-back, but unfortunately he did come out kind of a little bit late now in terms of kind of the versions we've had on many, many other cards. Djaló, another cracking centre-back, very easy to upgrade, still upgradable as well. So if you haven't done him yet, then you have still got time. You can go buy that 91 version, get the upgrade done, and sell obviously the 91 off. You can get a very good centre-back in him. I do think he's probably more low centre-back of an S, but I gotta put him in that list. I do think pace-wise, he is absolutely brilliant. Tavernier, nostalgic wise, in terms of the link between him and Kent, was absolutely unreal. Now we don't need that link. We've obviously seen Kent move over to the Turkish league. I just feel like he is going to be more fodder than anything. Then Saint Just. Incredible footies card. Another one that's very, very completable. I think it was an 85 rated team or something like that. Nothing more than a cracking centre-back. And as we knew from, I believe, his gold card this year, incredible amounts of pace. So he is an easy one that sits nice and pretty in, I'd say, middle to top of the S. Sorloth, great SBC card if you got him from a centre-back. I do think in terms of how they changed the positioning, and I do think that is the one thing that they got really right this year with a lot of cards. When it comes to shapeshifters, you've got a certain type of body type with a centre-back compared to a winger, compared to a goalkeeper. This year, they really did well at moving them positions, making it that a centre-back, if they went striker, a Rudiger, a Harry Maguire, a Czech, dare I say his name, it was a very easy transition to make him absolutely incredible. I don't know if it is just purely down to the lengthy element, especially for Czech, or anything like that, because in terms of body type, they haven't actually changed. So it's an interesting one to see where they went so right. Sorloth, when he came out, phenomenal centre-back. Whether I'd put him in S now, I'd probably go more in the AS if I'm being honest. I do think he was good for an SBC in the cost, but in terms of top-end centre-backs, I would definitely pick others over him. Smalling, another great centre-back, again, very cheap options, and I think that is where Team of the Season does play a part. When we've got the likes of Varane, the Virgils, they're still expensive, and by any means I'm not willing to pay millions upon millions of coins into footies, so it's got to be realistic until potentially we get an 85 times 10 repeatable. That will be the obvious day where we are then trying to get your Varanes, your Virgils, your Maldinis. That is going to be the where everybody gets the ultimate god team. For now, if you're looking at a cheap guy, Smalling definitely can do a little bit of a number. I don't think he's quite in Tomore's level, if I'm being honest. Defensively, probably. Pace-wise, again, he's not quite in that category. Skriniar, another fantastic one, but unfortunately will go down into fodder, and I'm thinking I'm going to need some more fodder room at this point. Sadili, incredible right back. If you've used him, he has been a great upgrade from level up Team 1. SBC, I'm pretty sure, but in general, this guy has been absolutely phenomenal in that right back role. I could even go as far as S1 in terms of a fullback, because realistically, if I'm looking at names, Carfu's on there. I really personally like Di Lorenzo, think he's absolutely wonderful. Reece James, not S1, but definitely up there. Hakimi Team of the Year, again, another great shout. And I must admit, Sadili, I've put him in for some of the objectives, and he's absolutely ran the show for me. So I'm in two minds with him. What is his stats again? I'm trying to think of kind of the complete game for him. I'm debating he could be that S1 for me, just purely on the fact we don't have that many fullbacks as well, which most definitely will come into factor when we talk about centre-backs. There is so many, it's ridiculous. He is a 4-star, 5-star, 96 pace. You know what? We're gonna put him in. You're thinking of an anchor on him? He would be absolutely solid in anybody's team. French, so he has the links all round, is going up there. Ramos, on the other hand, again, another one that could potentially go into a footies. I do think from, obviously, the flashback from Team of the Year, he is still absolutely incredible. Do I go for the S1 with him? Because I do think body type, just general animations of a centre-back, he is the perfect centre-back. Virgil is exactly the same. They are so open. You know what? Yeah, we're going with him. I think this card is still lasted so well. In terms of when he came out compared to now, I think the longevity of him, and I still see him in teams. 700,000 coins during Team of the Year in this market now did come in a little bit more expensive, and one that I personally missed, which is unfortunate for myself, but in terms of the price, he was expensive, and I think at that time we was completing other SBCs as well, but he has been absolutely outstanding. We then have Schweinsteiger, 97 rated, again one that I didn't see coming in terms of an icon, especially a centre-back icon. A 97 Schweinsteiger is absolutely mental. Still coming in at 1.7. I think he's got to be in that S1. Personally, I've only had a fair amount of games when it comes to the likes of Varane, for instance, a Virgil. I've used them for hundreds of games. We've used their gold, their inform, then their next special. With Schweinsteiger, especially at centre-back, this is the only version. We've only used him in literally a handful of games, so it's very limited in comparison. But in terms of what I saw, the upgrade into the centre-back did really well. I think physicality and defending came into it really, really nicely, and the pace upgrade was noticeable compared to the previous versions. Schlotterbeck, nice and easy fodder card more than anything. We then have Saliba coming in, another great Premier League centre-back. Again, don't get me started with Arsenal's players. I do think Saliba definitely deserves at least a 93, 94. I just think in terms of that card, if he got that upgrade, we would be talking about him in a different light. If I'm being brutally honest, I think he is more AS in comparison to obviously the centre-backs we're going to have. I could go with S with him. I do think he would give you the number, but I'm going to be very, very kind of more hesitant to put into the S, because otherwise we'll end up with 2 in S1, 2 in S. It just unfortunately has come down to him, the rating not being high enough in my opinion. Ruben Diaz, absolutely phenomenal. The centre-back in my team right now, defensive prowess is just unbelievable. He's got the pace. He's as solid as a rock. He is 100% in my S1. We then have Rosalion, great right back. In terms of the upgrade from obviously a left back to a right back, you've got yourself a nice one here. Incredible pace, defending and physical. Could do with a little bit of extra work. I'm not going to say it's absolutely sunshines and rainbows for him, but in terms of right backs, I'm going into the S with him. I don't personally think he's good as good as Sadili in my opinion, but most definitely worth a shout if you were going to put him in. Romagnoli, nice and easy one, straight at the bottom. To be honest, same with Robertson, to be fair. I do think this year, very underwhelming compared to what we expected from the previous Team of the Years, Team of the Seasons. I've not been a fan this year. And again, it's down to really, I personally think, no competition with Cancelo. Them two were absolutely on it, left, right and centre. Cancelo unfortunately went over to Bayern. Did manage to get quite a good Team of the Year honourable still with obviously City, but unfortunately it stopped there. Never been a fan of Riquelme in my opinion. I just don't rate him in a left back. I know there was a few comments on the Shapeshifter icon tier list that really rated him. In terms of left back, I think he's fodder. He's in my club. He's never been used. He's never been used more than 2 games to try and have a look at how good he was. But in terms of kind of actually going into a team, he would be an objective player if I need Argentinians. Other than that, he isn't touching it. Ream, another good shout, obviously a brand new one in terms of an SBC. I do think he is more fodder in terms of a full-on American card. Does obviously get the Prem links, but I just don't see him getting into teams. The question is, I would probably choose him over Todibi, Skriniar, Schlotterbeck. I don't necessarily think he's miles better, but I would say he's over them in my opinion. I'd say a low AS for the moment, and then we start getting the 95 and 99 cards. That's when personally he just goes straight into fodder. Petit, another shapeshifter. Again, I feel like shapeshifter icons, it was very attack heavy. I must admit, all shapeshifters, we all focused on the Czech, the Neuer, the Rudiger, Eto'o, Van Persie, Pele, Henry. The centre-backs like Schweinsteiger just went through the radar. And I must admit, Petit, again, got a cam and a centre-back in terms of the 2 versions. Really didn't like the cam. I just don't really fancy him there. In terms of Petit, he is very much like Who did I even say on this list? Zanetti, and I'm thinking of Desai as well. I like him in that moment CDM version. Very tall, very demanding, and if he had these stats as a CDM, I'd be absolutely all over it. I'm going to go AS for him personally. Again, let me know if you think he's a bit better. Pacho, another great upgrade. Don't really think he's anything special in my opinion. I think Diallo, all of the other centre-backs, Varane, are absolutely on class with him. But in terms of him, if I was going between him and, say, Diallo, I'd go with Diallo 100% of the time. In terms of would I go, I'd go over Schlotterbeck. So we'll go AS for him. I think he's a good card for the price, but most definitely not going in the top of the top. Otamendi, again, very good defensively, but unfortunately, league, just in general prowess, doesn't go over most of these centre-backs. Orsolini, though, great right back. I think this is another one that I do think definitely rivals the Di Lorenzo's. Whether I think he absolutely smashes it, I don't think so. When it comes to him as a 92 shapeshifter, we're looking at good pace, dribbling, passing, defending, physical. So he has got that package. But in terms of kind of just natural ability off the ball, I just don't see it. Di Lorenzo has got it all in a package. He's 92 rated, so the same rating as him. In terms of the dribbling and passing, it is a little bit lower. And obviously, we've got the 5-star, 4-star for Orsolini, which I do think makes him that little bit better kind of dribbling with the ball. But if I'm putting in defense, the pace, the overlap, I do prefer Di Lorenzo. They both will go into that top end category. I don't feel like they both don't deserve it, because just because one's in there doesn't mean another one is in there. But I would personally rather go with Di Lorenzo as my Italian right back. We then have a player that most definitely I'm going to have to see in a bigger light, because I am not going to pronounce that name without seeing it a little bit more, because we're going to butcher it in style. And most definitely I'll need to learn how to spell it first as well. I'd like to tell you about skycoach.gg. They offer many features within the FIFA franchise, from FIFA coins to FIFA Weekend League boosts, from trusted sellers, pro players, and are the best prices on the market currently. They have fast delivery, high quality services, lots of games, and also a cashback program. The more coins you buy, the more eligible you are for cashback options. So if you want to buy FIFA coins at the best price, click the link in the description of this video. It will be active promo code for 10% discount from my subscribers. All you have to use is the code JT11 at the checkout to receive this bonus. On to the video. Oh, well, that's easier. It's Paul. Nice and easy. In terms of the stats, doesn't look anything special. Was an SBC, so realistically you had to have done it prior to the shapeshifters finishing, and that is not the player. I'm just going to go straight fodder with him. It's nice and easy with him. I don't feel like he really goes over too many teams, and we are running out of fodder room already. It's coming to my camera. We then have Ochoa, one of the centre-backs that we've got that obviously was a keeper. Didn't really see too much from him, to be honest. To say he is, I believe he's actually in the team. Again, in terms of shapeshifters, it was that thrill of a different position, especially with how many goalkeepers they did. I really didn't see him that much. In terms of a goalkeeper, we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt in terms of kind of how he still plays today. If I'm judging the keepers all on a whole, because they were, I swear they were upped a lot more than what most cards were, I've just got to put him there. Nuno Mendes, great left back. Very, very pacey. Definitely could have kind of gone with a bit more of that defending physical upgrade, but we are talking about two different times here. Now it's hard because we're looking at the the level ups. The only thing left for them, because they've all got 98, 95 defending, 95 physical, they have to have the passing and the dribbling added on top. With Nuno Mendes, it was mainly pace, dribbling, and then he has the above average defending. So we're going S for him. I don't think he's top on my list for a left back, but most definitely not a bad option, especially with the links that he does provide. Nesta, on the other hand, again, great centre-back in terms of the Vidic, and obviously Nesta era, Baresi as well in Trophy Titans. They did really well to upgrade these cards, but I do think now Nesta is slightly coming out of it. I do think in terms of a Nesta card himself, the best we've ever seen, obviously, but unfortunately he will start to drop a little bit more, whereas I do think Vidic still really holds that value. Montiel, another great right back. Wherever I'd go, we've got Rosalion, we've got Orsolini, we'll more than likely have Di Lorenzo, as obviously that is kind of one that I'm already portraying. Would I say Montiel's up there? Pace-wise is good, defending physical is very nice as well. Obviously the dribbling passing is kind of at the peak of team of the season. Would I go AS? I think he's better than Zaha. I do think he's... Who's the other right back we've got in that? We've got Akambi's left back, Traore. I'd say he's better. I must admit there was a kind of confusion between Montiel and the other Argentinian right back for... Oh, there he is, Molina. Beautiful. You speak about him and he turns up. So in terms of both of these, I felt like one cancelled each other out, really. And I must admit, Molina was coming in cheaper because SBC prices and all of that. But in terms of physicality, we've lost. Dribbling, we've got more. Pace, we've got more. I think it's very hard to make that argument and not think Molina is better. I used Molina obviously more than I did Montiel, as I wanted to try out the team of the seasons as they came out. The showdowns I've not really got too much of an issue with, but I do think if I'm going S for him, I've got to go S for both. We will. I do think in right back there's not too many that are top level. So I must admit, they're both better than Zaha in my opinion. Mitrovic, another great one to be honest. One that I do think started off really well and then I think everybody kind of just reverted back. He is an objective player, I believe. I believe that's why there's no price on him. I do think more objective, but in terms of him, I think, was he one of the first that got into the centre-back role? He did it well. Very much like Sorloth, good at the start. And then we kind of just go back to your normal day-to-day. We go and get your Varans back in. You go get your Maldinis back in. And the shapeshifters don't really kind of do anything else. There's two shapeshifters that I do think, especially if you're looking at SBC, cheaper players that stay in your team. Milinkovic-Savic, SBC centre mid. And obviously Czech striker. Other than that, unless you've got your Brunos or your De Jongs, there's no other cheaper ones that I do see on a regular basis. And it's a shame because I do think a lot of people did do Mitrovic SBC. Objective. Obviously, it was free to do if you obviously played the game. But in terms of the card itself now, I do think it's more of a phase for shapeshifters. If you kept bringing them out, more than likely you're going to replace him with another striker that's going to go into that centre-back at some point. Medina... Great cheap Ligue 1 centre-back. Would say he's definitely now in towards the AS more so than the top end of the centre-backs. And we've not even broken the seal on these top centre-backs yet. And Bemba, still holding a grudge for that objective. I like what they tried to do, but I just think it was just absolutely ridiculous to get it finished. And Bemba was a bit easier, but Openda was what I really wanted to try out. And unfortunately, it just wasn't to be. Emi Martinez, though, incredible, great centre-back, and this is where the goalkeeper sort of bias really kicks in because Buffon Martinez was impeccable as a centre-back. Just so quick off the ball. You'd never know that he's a goalkeeper without actually knowing that he is a goalkeeper. It's crazy. Marquinhos this year, or Marquez. We'll go Marquez first. Marquez most definitely a very, very top-end centre-back. When he came out for obviously the fantasy foot, he was unbelievable with that defensive level. Now I think with heroes, there's only one real hero that I think can hold his position at the moment, and most definitely not Martinez at this point. We all know who that's going to be. But in terms of Marquinhos, this year I feel like he's definitely been a bit underwhelming. I don't know if that is just purely down to the cards he's had on the build-up, his natural in-game. Is he not necessarily as quick as what we want for other players? But I think the team of the season definitely rounded him off nicely. But if he was going to go into that S1, I think he definitely would need that spike of an upgrade, a 97 and 98 at the very, very minimum. And then we go to the absolute Rolls Royce of centre-backs. Maldini is still absolutely clear. If you don't agree, you've never played with him because Maldini is unbelievable. And honestly, in terms of stat-wise, doesn't look that impressive. Like, we look at the pace, we've got 87, 77 passing, 72 dribbling. Yes, the obvious defending's gone absolutely through the roof. Not as much physical as a lot of these centre-backs, but Maldini in-game is the perfect centre-back. He's almost like how I kind of describe R9. He has got the 5-star, and the stats are looking a lot better than most, but it just naturally works for him. He gets the ball, he's in the right position, he gets the strength element, he gets the head element, the tackles work. He just is the perfect centre-back. And again, I still think he's one of, if not the best centre-back in the game. Definitely over the past few years, I feel like it only got to the end of footies until that was ever a question. This year, I do think this man has definitely put him to the test. Lucio is unbelievable. And again, very similar. In terms of the stats, they don't equal a lot. And I must admit, Lucio definitely is now starting to tail off a little bit. But in terms of in-game ability, he is still absolutely incredible. You could use both of them from the moment they came out to the moment now, and they still would be endgame. It's just naturally it. But I'm hoping, fingers crossed, if they are still continuing with these footies heroes, we do see a 99 Lucio, because that would be outstanding. We saw Cahill already. Whether we see a 96 Lucio, that personally would be one of the greatest SBCs we have seen for obviously a centre-back. Maldini, just on the other hand, came out yesterday, so if you want to get him done and you've not necessarily got a Varane, a Virgil, a Ramos, a Schweinsteiger, obviously a Diaz, then he is there for the taking. I don't actually know how expensive he is, but I can imagine he's very, very expensive at the minimum. His normal card's coming in at 1.3, and we've got a 1.35 mil SBC to get him done as well, so absolutely incredible value. Laporte, on the other hand, during the Prem team of the season, loved him. Him and Diaz together was outstanding. Man City links as well, but in terms of them both, Diaz had, well, to be honest, both of them have that defensive prowess. The tackling that you've got from both of them is outstanding, very physical. Back then, not necessarily the quickest defenders as well. You do have to play a certain way. Diaz is not necessarily going to catch the Mbappe running through the check with the lengthy unless you are calling it early. And to be honest, that's like most centre-backs. Unless you've got your Varanes, obviously then you're looking at your kind of shapeshifters with an enormous amount of pace, which I think is what helps them massively. You've got to really kind of know your tackling. I think Laporte probably is more on the lower end of the S in my opinion, but I'd definitely say he is up there still. Lahm, very, very much like Zanetti. I personally don't rate him. CDM-wise, absolutely fine. Every moments that we've got from him has been brilliant at a CDM. But I do think in terms of a right back, I've just never really put him in that position and thought, wow, this guy stays in a team. LaCroix, on the other hand, very, very similar. You could maybe argue the AS, but I just think in terms of the gimmick now, it has gone. It just has. Then we do have Koyunde. Incredible centre-back, definitely slept on. Militao obviously comes to mind massively when it comes to centre-backs in obvious La Liga. 380k for an absolutely unbelievable centre-back. I think a high S in my opinion. Probably just missing out on S1 now, purely for the fact of the centre-backs of Varane pushing out a couple. Because we, like I said, we don't want everybody in S1. Personally, for me, they are the top of the top in their position. We then have Koulibaly, who most definitely was very, very unlucky this year because he again could have been the likes of Ruben Diaz in terms of how the card works. We've seen him endless times for Napoli's team of the season. This card could have been amazing. Judging the team of the year honourable kind of midway through the year, was already very nicely statted. An upgraded to a 95, 96 would have been outstanding for him. Unfortunately, definitely dropped in terms of rating in my opinion, and I think he's got to be more than fodder if anything. Maybe you could get away again very much with the defensive prowess of him, but in terms of kind of what he brings to the table now, I just personally don't see it. And unfortunately that just is the case with him. I don't think too many people would disagree with that one, as again, I don't see him in a team anywhere. Coman, again, like the likes of all of them, I do think with this card, he has actually got the ability to be a CDM, and I think he works it really well. Especially for the time that he came out, I felt like the passing was too high, the shooting was too high for him to not be in the midfield. As a centre-back, I felt like he was a bit clunky, pace-wise wasn't quite enough, whereas when we're looking at a CDM role, I don't need him to be rapid. Yes, now, kind of at this point, he does need to be rapid, but foot birthday era, he could happily sit in that CDM role, pick the ball off, get the pass off, and maybe even go for a shot every now and then. In terms of centre-back, not really rated him, in my opinion, at all. Klosterman, though, another one that I did forget about for a while, to be honest. A 95 left-back, definitely got the ability to really put it on the left-backs that personally I rate highly. So for that, I'm going to go with a happy S for him. I think in terms of kind of how they moved just a centre-back to a left-back, he definitely adapted really well and has done a solid role in that fullback. Kimpembe, again, very much like Ramos, still very, very top end. We have got him and obviously Ramos as the flashbacks for obviously the previous seasons. Ramos for a little bit more of kind of history really, whereas Kimpembe has just been that guy. Last year he was that guy, this year again. Could we see a footage of him? It's debatable whether we've got time for all of them, because we haven't got that long, to be honest, and I don't particularly want a Kimpembe 99 in September the 10th, so we need to get him ASAP to get him into the team. Kim Min-jae, very easy fodder really. Lower rated from obviously the community and also Serie A. Apparently they decided to put them back in for them, but no one told EA. Kalulu, great centre-back. Another nice cheap one. Whether I'd put him in the... well, it's obvious that I'm not putting him in the S1, but in terms of kind of what he brings to the table, I think most definitely from the upgrade version as well. Good pace, defending physical, a little bit less on the dribbling and passing compared to what we've seen, but in terms of a centre-back, absolute unit, and especially French links as well, which seems to be everywhere. Jordi Alba, though, end of era. It very much is an end of era. I just felt like he was going to play for years more. In terms of the 95, great SBC, good links around him, came out with Busquets, came out as well with Rodri from the Champions League. He has them links already that works really, really well. Ramos on the other hand, you've got Jesus Navas on the other side that was just season pass, I want to say. And I do think absolute class of a left back. Don't say he's top, but most definitely up there in the topper category. Same with Jesus Navas, to be honest. I don't think he's necessarily top in my opinion when it comes to right backs. If I'm thinking Orsolini's now there, we've obviously got Rosa Leon, we then look at Montiel and Molina. That is my problem. Them two have caused me an absolute headache because them two are not as good as Navas in my opinion. But if they're S, he's got to be in there. So I feel like they could have been AS, and I've bottled it on them too. So for that reason, he's got to go into the S. And to be honest, if that's the case, Reece James has as well. I do like Reece James a lot more than a lot of them, purely for that overlapping kind of mentality with him. Very, very nice in a 4-4-2 to have your right mid and your right back every now and then overlap, depending on obviously how you play. But he whips a ball in, it works, he gets back. He's an absolute tank of a traveller going up and down. Herrero is the easiest fodder card I've ever seen. And to be honest, we're just going to stick the Herrero card the other side as well underneath him. Because left back, right back, it doesn't matter. Didn't rate him, didn't ask. Theo Hernandez, though. This card is beautiful. My favourite left back. There is obviously one other that we'll get to. But Theo is an easy S1. If you've ever used him, you know exactly why. He is perfect. The only one that I think could dethrone him and the other guy is a 99 or, for instance, a 95 Ferland Mendy. And that's purely 5-5. Ability would be through the roof. The stats would be reflecting on, obviously, this part of the game. But Theo has been incredible. Hector Bellerin was one that I did forget in terms of an objective. Never going to argue with him. Portuguese league, so adds a little bit of spice to them objective players, but most definitely for a Spanish right back, he puts his numbers up with Navas, so I'm going to put him in the AS. I think he definitely is one of them ones that if you did the objective, he is going to be an objective player. He's nowhere near the top end, but most definitely not a bad objective. We then have Thorgan Hazard, another good left back that came very, very early on in Shapeshifters. Very standard in my opinion now. Again, good left back, but most definitely not in the top category. He's kind of going on to fodder if I'm being really honest. Hakimi though, great right back. Shame he didn't get any team of the season or has not had anything since the team of the year. Very much like Virgil. I feel like maybe a footage is on the card for him, as again he would definitely take that top spot then. We look at a 96, 97 Hakimi. There's just nobody that competes at this point without any kind of inkling of another footage. So he's an easy one that's going into the S1. Guerrero, again, very much like a lot of the CDM shouts, a centre mid is beautiful for him. In terms of left back, he's good, but I think the position for him is definitely that centre mid, and he has got the alternative for it. His stats are just well balanced. Other than the physicality, I think he plays a great centre mid role. Guendouzi, another great centre-back. I feel like he could play the CDM centre-back role very, very well. In terms of what we see, the pace, dribbling-wise, has gone up. Obviously, the passing's a bit more. Defending and physical have gone back to 93, which is incredible as well. Who would I go for? Because we've got Dejalo, again, looking at him now compared to some of these top-end cards, and this is where it's going to get a little bit more tricky, forgetting some of the stats on some of the cards, as well as body types. Guendouzi going from that CDM to the centre-back is a great position for him. So he is an easy one going into that S, in my opinion. Grimaldo, another great left-back, very much like Bellerin. Nice objective player. But in terms of kind of proper left-back, I don't think he's quite there. We then have our first footies left back. I think we've only had one, in fact. We're very early on into left backs. But in terms of Gosens, footies, SBC, objective, very easy to finish. And I do think he definitely comes in with a bit of style. We saw him, was it this year that we got another objective for him? We got the Champions League one. I'm pretty sure that was an objective as well. So we've gone from an 86 objective to the 93. Again, another left wing back. Very, very easy one in the S. I don't think he's got shouts to be top, especially with some of the left backs we've got. Theo and the obvious other one that's coming up soon. I think it's quite an easy one. Gomez, on the other hand, this one definitely puts shouts back on, because if you remember, I don't think it was last year, but the year before, he actually had quite a few good upgrades. Whereas this card is definitely a solid upgrade. We're looking at 94 pace for him. He's got obviously the passing and dribbling upgrade from his 84 card. He's had a plus 14 and 15 on the dribbling and passing, because we've already got 96 defending and physical. That, again, already puts him at a massive advantage. But that card has definitely been revived from an 84, a 12 upgrade overall. Footies definitely started off well for him. Giroud, on the other hand, one shapeshifter I was actually disappointed with. I didn't rate him. We got him very early on in Team 3, I want to say he was in, but I didn't like him. I felt like it was almost like, well, I don't know if the Team 3 was kind of like the gimmick went off too much. The one thing I'm happy with Shapeshifter 3 is Henry is just, mwah, he is beautiful, but I feel like the goalkeepers coming out, we've already had Czech, we already had Milinkovic-Savic. They were taking over teams, and it is getting frustrating. Then we also have the Dutch centre-back, very much like most. He is kind of more in the fodder region, which we have now run out of. So this is going to be very interesting, because Gaia, again, in terms of left-backs, I feel like I'd probably go with Forgan personally. Akambi, I would definitely go over. Other than that, I don't think we've got any of the left backs there. Grimaldo, to be honest, probably go Grimaldo as well. So where on earth do we put him? I might move my camera up a little bit, unless we can get him there without the camera moving down, because that is going to be drastic. We then have Gavi as a shapeshifter, 93 rated, obviously another objective that you could have got. In terms of the stat difference from obviously going from a centre mid into the right back, definitely worked in his favour, because we got a nice upgrade for him. Whether I'd go, you know what, no, it's an easy one. I don't think he's S1 in my opinion. I do think he's definitely a top-notch card, and one of the better objectives we've seen, probably from the team of the season, but I do think as a fullback, he does the business. Frimpong, on the other hand, who we got in that S1, because I do like this card. The pace, the overlap is really, really tasty. You can go with the Sentinel to get more of that defending physical up. We've already got passing and dribbling. He is sensational, and the maxed out pace obviously helps. Yeah, to be honest, I'd go him and Salidi. Yeah, Salidili. I've lost his name. I could say it once and that's it, it's gone. Then we have Foy. Another good upgrade, 93 rated. In terms of the level up, I feel like it's a nice upgrade on his card. Personally didn't rate him too much in the game. We used him a handful of times. The only thing that really kind of gripes with him is he did have the version before at 53 shooting. We needed to score in 5 separate games with this guy. Why on earth is we going to score a goal with a specific card that has got 53 shooting? It was hard, and I did it all in Rivals because we needed to get Werner done. But that one was a grind and a half. I just think he's a standard right back in my opinion. We then have Rio Ferdinand, who most definitely has had a lot of mixed reviews this year. I feel like in terms of Rio, he normally dominates. He's got a great base, a great mid, a great prime. In terms of what comes out, this year it's just not worked for him. I barely see him. Maybe it is because the fact that 2 years in a row we got him in icon swaps as one of the options, and very, very early on. So maybe he was kind of seen more purely on opportunity to get him rather than necessarily people packing him or people buying him. But in terms of the card, I feel like he's very standard. I didn't really kind of rate him in comparison to where we got the other cards and the kind of time period. If I'm thinking when Trophy Titans came out, I personally prefer Baresi. It just is what it is. Militao, on the other hand, Again, another nice upgrade, to be honest. I think in terms of Koundé Militao, we had a great pairing for La Liga centre-backs. Whether I wouldn't go S1 for him in terms of kind of if I'm thinking, I'd take Varane, I'd take Virgil, Ramos is a hard one, but as an SBC, I think I'd take him. Schweinsteiger, Diaz, Maldini, Lucio, always. Kimpembe is just a cheat code. Gomez is incredible. I think he suits that S role, if I'm being honest. We then have the Dutch centre-back from, obviously, the Bundesliga year in review objective. Nice and easy fodder more than anything. Then we have our man Di Lorenzo. I cannot praise him enough. You've heard enough about him, so he is quite an easy one. He's personally my bias, so again, like I said, S1 might be different for yourselves in terms of fullbacks, but I really, really rated him. Again, maybe it is biased from that Serie A Cup, but he was an absolute dream down the wing. Desai, on the other hand, very much like Rio, very much like Zanetti, Riquelme, Lahm, and the rest of them. I like him in a midfield role. I feel like the physical presence of Desai has always been phenomenal, and I just don't want him in that centre-back, especially with the centre-backs that we can have. I just feel like it's a wasted talent, in my opinion. Dembele, very similar to a lot of the centre-backs we've seen. Nice gimmick to start with, has the stats, but unfortunately has started to come down. I would say a lower AS than the rest of them, in my opinion. De Ligt, on the other hand, incredible. Absolutely incredible. I was waiting for this card to get the upgrade. We got... What did we get on his one to watch, in fact? He was a 91 to watch, managed to get the 6 upgrade, he's had 3 informs. We was just waiting for this because De Ligt has always been a solid defender. Like Diaz, he's never necessarily had the greatest pace in the world. He starts off with 75, which to be honest doesn't look that bad nowadays at a start, but in terms of centre-backs, we're looking at the Kimpembes, the Virgils, we're looking at a LaCroix Gold. We want the absolute monster pace. Now we need the defendant, we need the package. Everybody's got the pace, but it's all about the package, and De Ligt, I was going to say has a massive package, but I mean, you know what I mean. Then we have the other left back, Alphonso Davies. Great 95 left back. Incredible. He is obviously the other left back we were talking about. And like I said, there's only probably one other name in Ferland Mendy that really takes them off. Or if we do get the end of era icons and they're not necessarily the icons that are leaving from icons to heroes next year, your Rui Costas, your Litmanens, I think Roberto Carlos would be a great shout. A 95, 96 Roberto Carlos, end of era, could definitely dethrone. But whether we see that, or another one in Footy's Heroes, Capdevia. Oh, that card would be nice. David Garcia, again, nice and easy one. Or even Danilo, both of them can go there, to be honest. They are both more fodder cards. So a very easy one. But the problem is, David Garcia is going to go ahead of him. So we'll just put him there, and it's a nice and easy one. Cuadrado, he is a right mid, but definitely can play the right back still. You go with a Sentinel. We've got the pace down to an absolute T. I don't think he's quite my favourite right back. Again, I've seen people absolutely rave about the card. Just never really seen it. Ashley Cole, though. Great card. I do think from the upgrade, because I must admit the base, mid, prime is washed. I do think they've absolutely done him dirty as one of, if not the best left back we've seen amongst the Roberto Carloses, amongst the Marcelos of kind of that generation of absolute trophy winners. Ashley Cole is deserving of a better card than that. And hopefully we do get a reshuffle at some point for the icons. I know it's not happened really at all other than the new versions we've got. I do think he deserves better because even the team of the year now is just not good enough. I feel like a 93-94 is an absolute must for Ashley Cole. If you remember how good he really was, I personally think he's absolutely done a disservice for this. Very much like Henry, I think the balance is just an absolute joke for how it affects the card. Ashley Cole for me is just not up in that category, which he definitely should be. Klaus, another great kind of option. Why am I keep picking the wrong cards now? Klaus, not a bad option in terms of a right back, where I think he's just all pace and that's about it, which most fullbacks are. I'm not going to sit here and lie that everybody has these amazing amount of stats. You could argue between all of them, but in terms of fan favourites, Klaus was always kind of overshadowed by Hakimi. I always like James in this game. When we look at the other right backs, we look at someone like a Navas. I just think they've got more to their game than what Klaus personally does. Chiellini, on the other hand, again, maybe an end of era would have been did we even get an end of era of him? Because I know technically he's not well, I mean, he has technically left, so I think he definitely deserves one, unless he got one last year, which he did, so I'll be quiet now. In terms of Chiellini, though, he is very much in that bottom category now. I feel like in terms of the card, it was a last sending off for a Chiellini until he really loses the pace and just becomes very, very irrelevant in the game until he gets another flashback SBC or something. Roberto Carlos, though, trophy time, so he did have a little bit of an upgrade, but in terms of the card, he's just not there in my opinion anymore. He's got a great overlap on him, but there is so many left backs out there that you would definitely pick over him. Then we have Capita, who I personally go as a centre-back because he is a monster centre-back. Is an objective if you wanted to go for that way as well. So again, he has that multiple use this time round, whereas obviously last year it was mainly right back and right back only. You could swap him in game, you could play him off chem, but in terms of now, the alternative position of having him as centre-back and then obviously a Carfu as right-back, you could then even go as far as Lucio centre-back and then even Roberto Carlos as a left-back for the Brazilian links. You're looking absolutely insane. The only thing with me missing is a Julio Cesar or a Dida. Great Brazilian keepers would be outstanding to see. With Capdevia, I still think he's top. I must admit, he's definitely lost a little bit. I think if this was when that card came out, he is S1 all day, every day. We don't have a Davies and obviously a Theo then, or at least we have a Team of the Year Theo, but in terms of Capdevia, the defensive ability on him has been outstanding. From that World Cup card to the Fantasy Foot, he is still absolutely incredible, but I do think he is starting to drop off now. Like most cards, the progression is definitely an overload. So a Footies Heroes, EA, if you're listening, I want one. Cancelo, to be honest, again, I think this card has done well to keep in with the times. Whether I'd say he's in that top category now, I'd probably still put him ahead of Robbo, which is just crazy to think. Or would I go fodder? Realistically, he is fodder, isn't he? I don't see many people going to use... Yeah, nobody's going to use him. Oh, no, the worst has happened. Let's move the list back up a little bit. In terms of kind of him, he's a good player, and most definitely if you've got very little options, he could put a shift in, but you're not going to go out and buy him. He's in packs right now, and most definitely is fodder. Kamenvinga, on the other hand, great upgrade for him. He was from that crafting upgrade. 93 rated left back, though. Outstanding. I do think this card is definitely put in a shift, and most definitely deserves his right in that S category. Same with Enrique. Another good one with obviously the very, very frustrating upgrade of putting in crosses to score. Don't tell me how many times I've tried to do that with Lewandowski. 94 rated, comes in with a 5-star, 4-star, does lose out a little bit on that physicality battle. He has got the passing, pace and dribbling to work, so if we are looking at more of a wing back, definitely suits that really well. If I'm thinking solid left back, I'd say he's probably under Capdevia in my opinion. And then if we look at the other left backs, we've got Klosterman. I'd say Klosterman's better. Alba's better. Gossen's kind of side by side. It's a very hard one because I do think when it comes to the left back or left wing back, they are two totally different roles, and obviously the attacking element is going to take a massive place. You know, just purely for the fact of what we've got in this S, in terms of kind of the bottom end of AS, I would more than likely take him over all of them. Carfu, very easy S+, absolutely love him, still absolutely outstanding, most definitely staying in there. Buffon, on the other hand, great centre-back. I think he works really well. He's another one that definitely has been put in teams a lot more than what we've seen from the Shapeshifters. Was he an SBC? He was. I thought he was. And it seems to be all the SBC players. Most definitely goalkeepers that were SBCs or objectives. Your Bravos, your Pepe Reinas. They are all very, very top end for objectives / SBCs. Bremer, nice and easy one, is going into that fodder. Again, another great card for a cheap value, but nothing but fodder now. Same with, obviously, the Eredivisie American left back. Standard as you like. Benusi, very much like Chiellini. It's kind of a last kind of ditch effort for a flashback with a bit of pace. When he came out, most definitely was definitely usable. Wasn't necessarily going to go into the team, but you could use him. Blanc, very same with the Trophy Titan kind of theory. Good Blanc card. Unfortunately now he has been overrun with an incredible amount of fullbacks. And this is one that splits opinions, because I really like Becker. I think he works really well. His obvious kind of change in position really works for him. But I have seen people not like him. And you know what? I'm gonna keep to my guns with him. I still rate him. Whenever it comes to a Bundesliga team, he works. He absolutely works. Same with Baresi. Again, one that probably some people would drop down now. In terms of an S defender, I think the actual defensive ability of him is absolutely incredible. I do think the upgrade for him, like we've seen with Nesta, with Blanc, with obviously Vidic, has been an absolute godsend for these icons that literally, as soon as we got mids out the way, they just wasn't relevant. Nobody was picking up a prime Vidic, a prime Baresi, a prime Nesta, even to some extent a prime Roberto Carlos. We've already got top-end left-backs at that point. Now we've got this upgrade on them. It's the best thing they've done, full stop. Bamba, on the other hand, another great card. I don't know if I'm linked on Bamba now. Great crafted upgrade card again. Good right back. Definitely puts in the shift. Definitely in that S. Just the S, yeah, we're not going to go one up for him. Ballack, on the other hand, very blocky in my opinion. We've used him during the Werner objective, and I think he did a solid role, but most definitely didn't put a shift in. I feel like a lot of the games was just won on pure score and more the opponent. I don't think he necessarily fits in that role. Centre mid-wise, yes. Right back, not really as much. Atal, on the other hand, very gutted we didn't get the shapeshifter from him. I feel like that was a missed kind of little bit of a cookie for me, because Atal, Trent, Acuna, all very good centre mids. Whereas now we've got a 4-star, 5-star Atal, still a right back, definitely puts in the shift. I just think they could have added that little bit of spice for him that really would have put him in that top again. And even then, didn't give him the 5-star, 5-star, so I can't even change him in game. Orejo, on the other hand, another great centre-back. I was kind of gutted that I didn't finish him during the community, because I do think, as a centre-back for an SBC, very much like Ramos, he could get you to the end of the game. Quite easily. But comfortably, even. Balde, another great left-back. Probably more in that S category. I'd say mid to low in terms of where he kind of fits with the amount of left-backs we've got. But unfortunately, he doesn't quite get into the top end with Theo and Alfonso. Alaba, another great card for a 92, road to the final, getting into the semi-final, just missing out on that extra upgrade. In terms of the card itself, a good centre-back, but definitely, like we see with these trophy icons, it very much done now in my opinion. And then I believe, finally, we have got Ake. Cracking cheap centre-back. If you need Prem, Dutch, just beautiful. A great centre-back for the price. If we're looking in comparison to the centre-backs we've got here, he has got to be in that AS. But I do think if you are still looking for a top centre-back for very little coins, he is a definite go-to, especially without that Prem tax as well. And that is going to be the list for you. So let me know down below if there's anything you would change. Make sure you like and subscribe on this. And I'll catch you all for the next one. Peace.